Luther King Jr. And I need everybody to go real good. Y'all know I gotta do that. How do y'all feel about Martin Luther King Jr.?
Real good.
That's a C and I can't stand C. I need more energy. One more time. How do y'all feel about Martin Luther King Jr.?
Real good.
One more time.
Real
Martin Luther King Jr.
Real good.
Everybody repeat after me. Say I.
I.
Y'all slow. Say I.
Love
myself.
Yeah.
Whoop that is.
Whoop that is.
Whoop that is.
Whoop that is.
I know. We just welcome y'all here. We're glad that you're here. We're glad that you made the commitment to come. But we do things a little bit better, working with the Elders Council. So we're going to break it all the way down. It has to have relevancy. We're going to start with a libation. Check. And for those that don't know, check. Ashe.
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 Bible quote.
Greetings. My name is Kwaku Larry Franklin Crow. I represent the Dayton Africana Elders Council. We are going to do a libation for our ancestors. We stand here on ancestral ground where our people struggled, worked, built, and educated us. I was born over on Mound Street.
All right, tell the truth.
A few minutes ago, many of you were born and raised here, and even those who were not, were all a part of an ancestral legacy. And as we find some water, we'll do libation. Libation is an African ritual by which we pour something or sprinkle something to demonstrate, to dramatize our loyalty, our affinity for ourselves, our dedication to make a better world for our children who are coming after us. Oh, okay, here we are. Let's see. For our ancestors, for the first people to walk upon the face of the earth, for the Africans who walked the Old Davi Gorge, who walked in the Rift Valley, spread across the world, we pour this libation for our first ancestors. Ashe. For our ancestors who built villages and towns and other dwellings, who taught us how to hunt fish, grow crops, taught us the arts of healing, who began the first writing in the world, we pour this libation. For our ancestors who built the great civilizations of Kemet and Nubia and Kush, who built the great civilizations of Ghana, Mali, Songhai, who built the civilizations of Mana Matapa, for the great Zimbabwe, for those ancestors, we pour this libation. For our ancestors in West Africa, for the Igbo, for the Yoruba, for the Sere, for the Wolof, for the San in South Africa, for the Xhosa, for the Zulu, for all of our ancestors all over the continent who bound themselves together and resisted foreign invasion, we pour this libation. For our ancestors that came across on the Middle Passage, for those who suffered, for those who committed suicide, for those who jumped on the slave ship captain, for those who came here, for those who had to work, for those who refused to work, for those ancestors who did everything possible to make possible our survival here today, we pour this libation. For those ancestors that resisted slavery, for Frederick Douglass, for Martin Delany, for Harriet Tubman, for Sojourner Truth, and all of our ancestors, known and unknown, who brought about the end of slavery, we pour this libation. For all of our ancestors in Dayton, Ohio, for John Davis, the first black man born in the Northwest Territory, for Joseph Wheeler, who founded the American Sons of Protection to protect us from white mob violence, for Martin Delany, for the great Hallie Q. Brown, who wrote Homespun Heroines, chronicling the careers of many great black women, for Paul Laurence Dunbar, for his father, Joshua Dunbar, that fought in the 54th Massachusetts, for his mother, for all of our ancestors here in Dayton who fought in the civil rights movement, for Leela Francis, we pour this libation. For W.S. McIntosh, our great civil rights leader, we pour this libation. For James H. McGee, Dayton's first black mayor. For C.J. McGlynn, who is the most powerful black politician in Ohio, and whose constitution they based the Congressional Black Caucus on.
Go ahead.
For all of our ancestors, personal ancestors, African ancestors, known and unknown, we pour this libation.
Ashe.
For us who are working today to make a better life for our children, and for all the children that are waiting to be born, to live in the world that we create through our activities, we pour this libation. For Dr. Martin Luther King and all the civil rights leaders, for Malcolm X, for all of our leaders of the past who made it possible to stand here today, we pour this last libation. Ashe.
Ashe.
And y'all give it up for him. Give it up for him. Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe.
Okay, here's what we're doing. We got a few speakers. We only got 2 minutes. We definitely gonna start out with the youngest. I'm gonna let Terry take it from here.
All right, welcome everybody. This march, the title, the theme for this march is Unity, Atonement, and Reconciliation. So we applaud everybody for coming out here on this cold day. We appreciate you, and now we're going to turn it over. Little Isaiah got something to say.
Why is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. important to me? Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is important to me because he showed us what it means to be a servant leader. Dr. King once said, intelligence plus character. That is the true goal of education. Yeah. Dr. King was smart and he had good morals. Dr. King studied and learned all that he could. He also served his community. He used his gift of learning to teach us how to fight injustice. Yeah. Dr. King could have just been smart and kept all that he learned to himself. But no! Yeah. He chose to do the right thing. Yeah. And helped others. He wrote many speeches to tell us to march to end segregation. Yeah. To march for the right to vote. Yeah.
Yes.
Come on, Isaiah. I want to be more like Dr. King. Yeah. I will try to learn new things and keep studying to get the good grades. I will keep serving in my church and in my community. I will use what I learned to make this world a better place.
Yeah.
Not just for me, but for everyone.
Yeah.
You will join me.
Yes.
You.
Yes. Go ahead.
Good job, Isaiah. Great
Yes.
job. All right, real quick, if you can, let's spread out a little more because of obviously what's going on with the virus. Let's spread out as much as possible. I know it's not much room, but we want to use as much space as we can. Next to the platform, I call senior from Stivers High School, Eric Shelton, everybody.
Let's get it, Eric. Come on, Stivers.
Good job, buddy. Good job. Good job.
When we think of the name Martin Luther King Jr., what comes to mind? Greatness, tenacity, generosity, toughness. Martin Luther King showed us that no matter how difficult a situation may be, we must prevail. We must continue to find greatness not only in ourselves, but in one another as well. Yes, we know that the fight against racism has progressed dramatically, but there is still plenty of work to be done. We must continue to light the torch that has been ignited by great leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr. We must continue to be proud of the color of our skin, continue to be unapologetically black, and continue to find the light at the end of the tunnel. The potential that we hold is remarkable. There is power in our words, in our voices, and in our community. The fight for change is everlasting. We must take pride in who we are as people and continue to advocate for one another. The leaders of yesterday have paved the way for the leaders of tomorrow. It is up to us in order to make change. It starts with initiative. It starts with the I can statement. It starts with all of us seeing greatness in ourselves and maximizing our potential. In order to see change, we must start. Not only in believing in yourself, but believing in one another. The great Dr. King once said, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward.
Go ahead.
Awesome job. Next to the platform, some young ladies that's doing awesome things in the city of Dayton. Let's welcome the YLAG girls, everybody.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all are doing well and have been staying safe during these unprecedented times. My name is Amaya Price, and I am a senior ambassador for Young Ladies Inspiring Greatness, which is a service organization that is an asset to the Dayton community with various community service outreaches. So, as we all know, 2020 has been an indescribable year. But despite the civil unrest, an unwavering pandemic, and our own personal tribulations, we have overcome. And as I stand here today, I remember one of Martin Luther King's infamous quotes, which reads, "We must accept infinite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope." This quote resonates with me because this past year has brought the Black community endless moments of disappointment. However, our hope for liberation is still here. With each passing day, we continue to carry out MLK's dream of a better tomorrow for our people. No matter how hard they try, we will not be silenced, and our voices will continue to move mountains. And on this day, dedicated to a man who symbolizes infinite hope, I am confident that we will continue the work not only of Martin Luther King Jr., but countless other activists who have fought for the equality of our community. Thank you, stay safe, and have a great day.
Hi, my name is Destiny. I'm also a part of YLAG. What does MLK Day mean to me? First off, when people think of this day, many people think about the birth and the death of the legendary Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man who paved the way for many opportunities and started the beginning of the movement. To me, it's a day that reminds me of opportunity. It reminds me of what happened to us to make all of this that happened has today. Now we have Black Senates, Black judicial judges, and a Black woman as vice president. Yeah! Today is a day that I am proud of to say that our teachers have taught us about in our early days. It is a day of Black revolution and a day to remember that what they did then, how it has affected our lives now. Even though we still have a lot of fighting to do, it was people like Martin Luther King Jr. who has made moments like this possible.
Good job, ladies. Next to the platform, our Montgomery County recorder, Mr. Brandon McLean, everybody.
How's everybody doing today?
Glad.
All right. Dr. King means unity and community. You see, Dr. King was the ultimate soldier in the war of equality for all people. However, he wasn't the only soldier then. He's not the only soldier now.
Right.
The war of equality is a lifelong battle. His life, death, legacy is and was a battle cry for equal rights. Dr. King dedicated his life to this pursuit, and we should continue his work with every fiber of our being, as we are living pieces of his dream. He was a voice for those who would otherwise be silenced, and he stood for those who couldn't stand for themselves. Dr. King unified people of all races, ethnicities, and backgrounds with love. And Lord, that love is still desperately needed today, and it lives in each one of us. Dr. King gave us a roadmap for true community. To paraphrase Dr. King, the most persistent and urgent question that we have is, what are you doing for those others who are in need? I've dedicated myself in service to answering that question, and I charge each one of you to do the same. I am my neighbor, and my neighbor is me. We are all interdependent, interrelated. No one is in this world alone. No one feels pain alone. No one experiences hate alone. No one is victimized alone. Another person's battle for justice today could be your battle tomorrow. So we must fight injustice at every turn. When one of us is cut by the hatred of injustice, we all bleed a little.
Appreciate you. And next we'll have Ms. Audrey Devine. Please come on up, please.
I'm Ari Devine. You may know me as Asia. I recently changed my name, Ari Devine. I want to lift up my ancestor, Martin Luther King Jr. We don't have to say a whole bunch about him. You know who he is. The first thing that I noticed on our march is I want to commend us. This is the first time in a long time that we have gathered, and I've seen more brown faces than white faces. I appreciate you showing up for our ancestors. I appreciate you showing up for yourself, for our children, for the fight. In such a time where, if you're fearful, however I'm fearless, it's scary to be black. Where showing up means so much to him, but it means even more to our legacy, our future, what this will be. See, we do this for something beyond us. We show up for Martin Luther King Jr., but we show up for my daughters and your daughters and our sons and their sons and who is to come. So to honor him, I want to speak in truth. Are you showing up for your legacy? What are you doing with what you've been given? Are you still complaining about what you don't have, how difficult it may be? Or are you creating your destiny? See, we are gods. When you look like me, I'm a god. You continue to allow people to deny your divinity, as my ancestor reminded me today. But you have the ability to create whatever you want this to be. If I don't like something, I change it. You have the ability to become a generational millionaire, or as I will be, a billionaire. But you know, you might settle for a thousandaire. I commend you for showing up. But I'll commend you if I see you next time and you're leveling up. How do we honor this ancestor? We do better. This year, we lost so many, like years before. As we blame the things that we may think we lose people to, maybe it's gun violence, which is truth, by the police. Maybe it's a virus. Maybe it's a heart attack. Maybe it's your poor lack of diet. Your ability to deny the truth. But what I will end with is the truth. We are still killing each other. We are still not leveling up. I went to a funeral of my brother this year that was killed by one of his brothers. Now, I need y'all to do better. But I honor my ancestor today by showing up here with you. You're going to honor your ancestor by leveling up and learning the truth. Read a motherfucking book. Peace, God.
Bless you, sister, bless you. Can I get a hand, everybody, please? You know, this is where you can participate, somebody speak, say amen, clap, snap a finger, do something. I know it's cold, but we got some hot chocolate if you're that cold, okay? We got some, let me help y'all out. We got some hand warmers. You need one, I got one. It's only $5, I'm joking, they're free. Okay? So, we're gonna keep it rolling. Can I get Stacy Benson up to the platform, everybody? And keep in mind, we do have 2 minutes. And as well, when you speak, try to keep the microphone away from your mouth as close as possible. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. I am Stacy Benson Taylor from the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. And Dr. King is important to us in labor because he said that all labor uplifts humanity and has dignity and is important. And it should be undertaken with painstaking excellence. Dr. King was called to Memphis, Tennessee in 1968 because the sanitation workers were on strike, experiencing much of what we experience today. They did not have the right to go inside the building in the cold weather, in the rain. They had to shelter themselves in the back of a trash truck. They were experiencing what we are experiencing as African Americans in 1968. And so Dr. King went to Memphis to stand up for those sanitation workers after 2 of them were killed in the back of a trash truck because that's where they had to go during inclement weather. And we often feel like we're in the back of a trash truck. We often feel like that we have nobody representing us. We often feel like that we are alone. But that's why we're here, because just like Dr. King, we showed up. Yes. And we're going to continue to show out. And so, just like Dr. King, labor, work is important. And because jobs, that's a civil right. Having a good living wage is a civil right. Having good insurance is a civil right. And so we continue to fight as labor to continue the balance between the civil rights movement and the labor movement, because they are one.
Amen. Awesome job, Stacey. We're going to keep it rolling just due to time. Can I get Carlos Buford to the platform, please?
Carlos.
On May 27th, 2020, I watched a 9-minute video of George Floyd being murdered. Immediately, I called a friend, explaining to him all the wrong things that was wrong. During that phone conversation, my friend asked me one simple question: what are you going to do about it? By that time, my mind was on 1,000. So I reached out to a group of people and we discussed organizing, and then we began working on multiple projects. Although my insides were still burning with fury, I remembered the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that nonviolence is a powerful and just weapon which cuts without wounding. As a result of our grassroots efforts of nonviolence, we managed to strip Trump of his presidency and Mitch McConnell of his obstructive powers.
Tell it.
To me, that was one of our collective responses to white terrorism murdering black bodies by using the most non-violent tool of all, voting. But white America don't like taking L's from black people, which is partly the reason we are witnessing the uprising of those who stormed the United States Capitol and killed 5 people. History seems to be repeating itself, where white terrorists try to project their problems onto blacks as though we are the cause of their misery, blaming us and Antifa. In closing, on this special day, I must warn my brothers and sisters that if you are seeking self-preservation during these times of unrest, sitting on the sidelines is not an option.
Amen.
Therefore, I must invoke the words of our dear brother Malcolm X. And I quote, "I'm nonviolent with those who are nonviolent with me.
All right.
But when you drop that violence on me, then you've made me go insane. And I'm not responsible for what I do." One love.
Period.
Appreciate you, man. Next to the platform, a good friend of mine, Mr. Will Smith.
I appreciate that.
Come on, Will.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, if you ask me why does Martin Luther King still special to me and important to me, it's because he was the movement. There is no one person in a movement. The movement is the movement. We are the movement. So if Martin Luther King is the movement, we're still the movement. If you look across the street, that's the oldest black church that we have in this city. If you look around here, this is one of the most powerful black neighborhoods we had in this town. Anybody that was in this neighborhood could tell you 5th Street was the heart of black Dayton. So why is this important to me? Is because we are important. And right now we have to understand that we have to move together. In this world right now, we see it's a lot of angry people. But Martin Luther King told us that Anger by itself does nothing. The supreme goal is to organize our people. So our anger becomes a transformational force that can actually do something. We can't sit around and be angry. And the other thing is we need to educate each other and move in action. Too many times we'll either want to be really smart or we want to be really active. But on its own, neither one of them do anything. Because we have to be educated and then move out of our education. And part of being educated is not knowing every book in the library. But if you look around and you don't know your neighbor, you're not educated. And if you don't know your neighbor, you're not educated. And if you're not educated on what your neighbor needs, you don't know what your community needs. And why Martin Luther King is important is because Malcolm X is important. Because W.E.B. Du Bois is important. Because everybody in the struggle is important. Because Rosa Parks is important. Because I'm important. Because you are important. And too many times we start looking and say, am I more like Martin or am I more like Malcolm? Well, guess what we did? We separated ourselves without anybody on the outside trying to do it. We say, who are we supposed to be, like this guy or that guy? How are we going to be like this politician or that politician, and understanding that no politician can have power unless we put them in there and we meet to make those asking demands. We sit around too many times fighting over positions and attention instead of fighting over power and intention. Because that's what Martin Luther King was about. He didn't care who was in the office. He was going to go to that office and talk to whoever sat in that office and advocate on behalf of his people. And that's why Martin Luther King is important, because Martin Luther King was the power. He was the people. He was the work. We have to identify with each other. When Martin Luther King died, he wasn't out being Martin Luther King for Martin Luther King. He was in Memphis advocating for people who were in a worse situation than he was. He gave his life at a time where he was out doing something for someone else. And if we do not stop doing everything for ourselves, we cannot uplift Martin Luther King. If you leave here and do not know the person standing next to you, you came for the wrong reason. If you leave here and you don't have a phone number, if you don't have an email address, if you don't have somebody to pray for, then you're not lifting up the honor of Dr. Martin Luther King. And so I challenge you, not ask you, not talk to you, I challenge you to turn around and meet 5 people today. Because that's what Dr. Martin Luther King was. So when you go home, you can say, you know what, I met this person. I know what this person's problem is, and now I can help out and fight for that. Because if we're not trying to fight for everyone else, we're not fighting for ourselves. And if we're not fighting for ourselves, we're not fighting for everybody else. Because when I look at you, I see me. And I'm going to tell you right now, I love myself.
Go ahead, Will.
So if I see you, and I see you in me, and I see me in you, then I love you. And that's all I can say about it.
Period. Go Will.
Good job, Will.
Go Will.
All right, next, another awesome leader in our community, Ms. Deja Demings, everybody.
Thanks, Will. You set the tone. Thanks. Why Martin Luther King is important to me. Martin Luther King showed me authenticity first. And we really don't understand words like that until we get older. But now that I'm older, I understand that, you know, everybody makes a comparison between black people. Like, oh, I'm more like Malcolm than Martin. You know, but Martin knew his place. Martin knew what his strengths were. He knew what his weaknesses were. He knew what to do, and he knew his way to do it. And that's what we have to do. So today I challenge everybody to be your authentic self. Love yourself, know yourself, so you can know how you can advocate for yourself and for other people, most importantly. We were put on this earth to serve.
That's it.
Serve other people.
That's it.
Martin Luther King was a servant leader.
That's it.
I vowed to be a servant leader.
That's it. Good. Good.
Make sure you learn yourself so you can help your community in any way that you can. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? We are the ones that we've been waiting for.
All right.
Good job, Deja. All right, let's keep it going. Another awesome community leader, an activist, a great brother. I love his spirit. A Mahai, everybody.
Good, thanks. When I'm thinking about what MLK means to me, I'm thinking, first of all, about the fierce urgency of now. The notion of we need to act now. Being here is great, but how are we going to continue the action? Right? His last speech said, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? Right? And that's where we're at. We're at a juxtaposition as humanity right now. Are we going to annihilate the dignity and worth of every human being? or are we going to deny and perish as fools? Right? Because King talks about the single garment of destiny. That what affects one affects the other. You know, in African philosophy we call it Ubuntu. I exist because you exist, and you exist because I exist, and I can't be all that I can be until you are all that you can be, and vice versa. It's I am because we are. And that's the moment right now, right? Are we going to choose love, or are we going to choose hate? We at a crossroads, and that's real. I appreciate what Will said about knowing our neighbors, right? We got to see ourselves in each other, right? Like we can't wait for others. We have the power to act. We have the power to move. We have the power to determine the community we want to live in, the environments we want to inhabit, what we want our youth to inherit. But it's up to us. We can't look for others and blame people and point when they do this, we'll do that, this, that, another. No, we have the power, right? Like I'm reminded of King. I'll close with his last speech. If I can find my phone. He said, power without love is reckless and abusive. And love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice. And justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. All power to the people.
Good job, brother. All righty, now we have a presentation by another good brother, Mr. Stephen Muhammad.
In the name of Allah the Beneficent, the Merciful, I would like to greet all of you in the greeting words in peace of Assalamu Alaikum, which simply means peace be unto you. And I am here to just give honor to one of our fallen soldiers, Brother Tyrone Muhammad. As you know, Brother Tyrone Muhammad was a peacekeeper. He was the best example of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, which is basically letting us understand that we are all brothers and sisters here. We may not have the same mother, but we have the same father, right?
Yes.
The Supreme Being.
Yes.
And so I'll just close with this. As a people, we are the 9th richest nation on the planet. If we were separated as a people, we would be the 9th richest nation on the planet. Now, think about the 10th. Think about what the 10th richest nation and the 11th and the 13th richest nation have that we don't have. They have hospitals, right? They have schools that educate their children and don't send them to the killing fields, right? They have grocery stores. So, brothers and sisters, let's in 2001 become maladjusted to white supremacy. Let's become maladjusted to black inferiority. And let us come together. Let's drop all these cliques that we have in Dayton.
All right.
Because as times get harder, and if you know anything about nature, that when a pool of alligators are satisfied because the water is and the food is plentiful, they're good. But when it becomes dried up, they become cannibals. And America is becoming cannibalistic. And so we need to either turn to each other, right?
Yeah.
Or we going to turn on each other. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
All right, next, I'm going to mess up your last name, so I'm not even going to say it. Part of the Black Panther Party, Mr. Daniel, everybody.
Peace, peace. I want to thank everyone for having me here. I'm not a native of Dayton, but I've learned to call this my second home. You know, I want to thank Will Smith for his words, Brother Carlos, and everyone else. I'd like to greet you all with Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
Abaragani. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Now, we're here to celebrate and commemorate Dr. Martin Luther King and all the things. He was a wonderful champion for social injustice. In 1955, he made a comment. He said, "I have not yet learned how to squeeze the slavery out of myself."
And he never quite came back and told us exactly how to do it. But here we are, dealing with stuff that happened with a guy named Willie Lynch a long time ago that he put on us. And we have centuries and centuries are now starting to break those chains. Now starting to break the chains of what we call psycho, social, mental enslavement. And here we are today, all together, with the wonderful thing of unity and atonement and reconciliation. And that's the theme of today. Unity. And what does it look like? Well, it looks like we need to have a we, because we don't have a we. We like to sit around and talk about we. We got a bunch of us's, but we ain't got no we.
Talk about it.
We need to create a we.
Yeah.
We need to have a we. Are you with me?
Yes.
So we start having a we.
Yes.
What does it look like to have to work with each other and have that we? So now we can take that we and say, well, you know, it's kind of a long stretch, Daniel. Well, what do? Well, we have to atone. I like to thank the street soldiers for having that unity, atonement, and reconciliation. See, atonement is getting the crap out of the way so we can get right.
Yeah.
You got to get right with God.
Yes.
You got to get right with yourself.
Yes.
You got to get right with your community.
Yes.
And atonement is what that means. It means that when you say, well, atonement is kind of, ooh, that's kind of a stretch there too. So what do? How about reconciliation? Now we got to sit back and we have to really take a look and compromise with one another and get past all of the things that we put on each other, all of the negative stuff that are the negative ideologies, gender ideologies, and sexual ideologies,
period,
and racial ideologies, and what those things really mean. See, ideology is really the behavior. What you put in your mind is what you see. We call that perception. What comes out of your mouth, well, we call that opinion. Everyone has one. And the way you act on something, that's what ideologies is. How you act. And right now, in our country, and the way things are, the way people are acting is a negative ideology. So I stand here before you today, and I thank Will Smith. Will Smith, as he gave me a job one time, I love it, brother. And he said, you got to meet 5 people. Did he say that? My name is Daniel Mejias. It's wonderful to see you. I got to meet 5 people. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I got to meet 5 people. How you doing? I got to meet 5 people. Is it Shackleton? That's Shackleton. That's Shackleton. I see, I got no more brothers. Come on, give me one more time. So here we are today. And what we're doing at the Black Panthers is we're here today to break those chains and to actually connect with everyone, and hopefully everyone can connect with each other in the same light and in the same fashion. So I say to you, peace, and I'm not gonna, it's getting kind of chilly out here, and I'm good. Okay. I'm glad that I'm here. I'm glad I'm here in Dayton, and this is my home now. You know, so that's what it is, and I'll let you say peace, Black Power.
Period.
I say.
All right, I'd like to bring up, I'm going to say it before I call him up. It's awesome when you ask somebody, what would you like for me to say about you before I call you up? And really the only thing they got to do is say something about the Lord. So Pastor of the Word Church, Dr. Chad White, everybody.
Dr. Chad White!
Good afternoon, everyone, as we take time to celebrate the life, labor, and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., one of my idols. And a man who I study, read about, and write about almost every day.
Yes.
I am honored to have this privilege to close this celebration out. I want to talk about for a few moments the courage to change. The courage to change. As we celebrate the birth of one of the most prolific leaders known to humanity, I am greatly concerned that the cutting edge of his prophetic voice has been blunted and made dull. Now that he is safely dead, we quote him, we lionize him and aggrandize him, but are we willing to put his words into practice in order to fulfill the dream that weighed so heavily on his mind? While he was alive, he was hated, smacked, spit on, arrested, beaten, but now that he is safely dead, we've made monuments to him and named streets after him. Yet we still fall woefully short of ending militarism, poverty, and racism. Most people take the path of least resistance because change is difficult. It's hard, and for some, allowing things to remain the same is much easier. There's an old axiomatic statement that contends no one likes change but a wet baby. We have the opportunity to make America a better nation, Ohio a better state, Dayton a better city, and each community we live in a better community. The founding documents of America are pregnant with opportunities for full citizenship and appreciation for all of humanity. The Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and other founding documents are a check that was given to the American people. But our citizens whose skin has been kissed by Mother Nature's sun and blessed with extra melanin for over 400 years have tried to cash this check over and over again, only to have it come back stamped insufficient funds. In order to do this, there must be unity. We must realize we are all in this together. Yes. Dr. King called this phenomenon interconnectivity. No person is an island, and we all need each other. So many times we look at the work of Dr. King and we see all the lights and the cameras on him. We had a group of supporters, women like Coretta Scott King, Dorothy Cotton, Septima Clark, Rosa Parks, a gay man by the name of Bayard Rustin, Jewish men like Stanley Levison and Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, along with so many others to name, that worked behind the scenes to make the civil rights movement a success. Unity is necessary to effect change and shift power structures that result in a radical redistribution of power and income. In Montgomery, they were unified. Nobody black rode the bus. The protesters' feet hurt from walking back and forth to jobs for 381 days, a year and almost a month. They walked, they were unified, although some were overworked and underpaid. They walked, they were unified, although some lost their jobs and others were threatened with the loss of jobs. Yet they walked, they remained unified. Others who volunteered their cars to be a part of the carpool to assist boycotters were followed and harassed by police, given tickets for laws they didn't break, and their insurance went up even when it wasn't their fault. Yet they remain unified. In the words of King, it's necessary because whatsoever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We just heard Amaha said, I can never be, talking about Ubuntu, I can never be what God has purposed and designed me to be until what you are who God has made you to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. Dr. King tells a story about Mother Poland. Mother Poland was a 72-year-old woman who walked back and forth to work during the Montgomery bus boycott. One day, Dr. King saw her walking and said, Mother Poland, you're an older lady. Your health is bad and you should catch the bus. She says, Dr. King, let me tell you something. My feet is tired, but my soul is rested. Yeah. When you have unity, your feet may get tired. Yeah. Your hands may get tired, but your soul will be rested. Yeah. People are good at getting uniform, Shaq, but we struggle with the idea of being unified. Wearing the same outfit is easy because it doesn't demand a change of heart, an internal transformation, a commitment to persevere through adversity. But what make matters worse is we so often assume that because someone has on the uniform, they are on the team. Wearing the uniform doesn't mean you're on the team, because if you're on the team, that means you have the team's best interests at heart. But I have discovered there is a danger in tokenism. People who have on the uniform but have been sucker punched by success and forget the team they are supposed to be playing for.
Tell it.
White America will tolerate or accept one or two token black people in their neighborhood as an executive on the job, a member in their country club, and these black people sometimes get sucker punched by success. They fall for the trick of the enemy and they say, if I can make it, everyone else can make it. They fall for the lie that they pull themselves up by their own bootstrap. King argues to tell a man to pull himself up by his own bootstraps is a joke. Matter of fact, it's a cruel joke to tell a man to pull himself up by his own bootstraps when the man don't even have a pair of boots to use.
Watch out, Chad!
Whether you know it or not, we're all standing on the shoulders of somebody else. Those who have cut paths, that have given footprints and fingerprints for us to follow. And we cannot be unified until successful blacks trade racism, stop trading racism in order to claim classism. In other words, we are all standing together because I hear Jesus saying, even though you're successful, even though you have a degree, even though you live in a gated community, whenever something is done unto the least of these, it's done unto me. We must remember that we are on the same team. Every football team has a defense and offense, Coach Mims. And each team has 11 players on each side. Everyone can't play the same position. No, do they play the entire game, but each player has a role. And I want to tell you, there's more than one way to fight white supremacy and aid in the liberation of the oppressed. We need entrepreneurs, scholars, street soldiers, preachers, politicians, woke and conscious mothers and fathers, artists, community organizers, activists. We need Malcolm X, we need Du Bois, and we need Dr. King. We need the SCLC, we need the NAACP, we need the Urban League, we need cusses, and we need prayers. I may never start a business, and you may never get a PhD, but we both need to do our part to uplift the black race. Let's not fall into the same binary argument of Du Bois and Washington. We need scholars and artisans. We need brains and hands. We need degrees and trades in order to make a change. I'm almost done. We need to stand together. Thank God for our white brothers and sisters that are here. But I've got a challenge for you. You're people of good conscience, but we need you in this fight. Truth of the matter is, racism is not a black man's problem. That's some stuff white folk created, and no matter how hard we try, we can't fix it for you. Racism. We need you, our white brothers and sisters, in boardrooms, in country club locker rooms, family dinners, at the Pine Club, the Oakwood Club. We need you in those spaces where there may be no black people, and you have a moral responsibility and ethical duty to speak up and stand up for justice and equality. King argues the measure of a man or woman is not where they stand in moments of comfort and convenience, but where they stand in times of challenge and controversy. Brother Mims, politicians, we need to have courage to change and draft legislation that is equitable and seeks to create a just society and not protect white privilege nor make America great again. Business owners need to speak up and pay a living wage for the least paid employees and break the glass ceilings that have historically prohibited blacks, females, gays, and other minorities from climbing the corporate ladder into the level of the stratosphere of executive leadership. Law enforcement needs to stand up. We are tired of saying we can't breathe. Hands up, don't shoot. And quit arguing that racism in policing is aberrant or one-off or just a bad few apples. The system, the structure, was biased from its inception, and it needs transformational reforming.
Come on, sir, Chad.
When should we start? I got about 3 more Baptist minutes. When should we start? King reminds us the time is always right to do what's right. Amaha, there is the fierce urgency of now that demands we stand together to end man's inhumanity to man in the barbaric treatment of any of God's children because of this social construct we call race or religious preference, a country of origin or sexual orientation. The time is now because tomorrow is too late. The time is now because D.C. and state capitals around the country have been turned into fortresses surrounded by soldiers with wartime weaponry to protect them from the very same people in their own party. Time is now because a president that just could not imagine that the attempt to suppress black voters before the election was unsuccessful and resulted in his loss. So now there's an attempt to suppress the same black votes after the election, and he uses intimidation of officials and inspired his cult-like followers to attack the very seat of American democracy. Time is now because the rewards of white privilege were televised for the world to see when white men and women stormed the Capitol, beat police officers, ransacked federal property, rummaged through the desk of offices of Congress people, and had the assistance of some law enforcement officers who actually took selfies with them. And when Black Lives Matter marchers marched down the street, they didn't take selfies, they beat the hell out of them.
Tell the truth, Chad.
Time is now because schools are still segregated. Brown versus Board of Topeka education was passed 56 years ago and still has not been fully actualized. The time is now because this is serious business. We cannot wait. time is now because gradualism has never been a friend to the oppressed. The time is now because weightism is always on the side of those who have power. The time is now because maybe next timeism is a tool to attempt to delay the inevitability of justice and the destruction of oppressive systems. The time is now because if we don't learn to live together as brothers and sisters, we will die apart as fools. The time is now because every person I meet on the Jericho road is my neighbor. The time is now because how can I love God whom I've never seen but hate my neighbor who I see every day? The time is now because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I got 2 more Baptist minutes.
Preach, man! Preach, man! Preach!
Let me go and cut across the field. I hear someone giving into the dark urges of nihilism and arguing things will never get better. And we are wrong to fight against the systemic structure of white patriarchal hegemony. I've been told personally that protesting is ineffective. As Donald Dominic and Bishop Cox and others stood outside in the cold fighting against the closure of Premier of Good Sam Hospital, we were told that protesting don't make sense. I was told I should use my energy and education to make more money and climb the ladder in the academy, but I want to share the words what Dr. King gave to his people during the Montgomery bus boycott at Holt Street. If we are wrong, Jesus of Nazareth was merely a utopian dreamer. If we are wrong, justice is a lie. Love has no meaning, and we must pray, march, fight, and work until justice runs down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. Last point. I'm out of here, chat. I argue that when you stand up for justice, you always win. Because you are doing a sacred work. You are fighting a battle, and you are in cosmic partnership with God. God has a special place in his heart for the marginalized, disenfranchised, and the poor. And I want you to know you ain't in this thing by yourself. Growing up at the Greater King Solomon Baptist Church in New Orleans, Louisiana, my father was the pastor. I would hear elders as they got weary and tired. They would strike up this song, and it gives me courage even to this day.
Come on, Red.
I can hear them saying, I've seen the lightning flashing.
Go ahead.
I've heard the thunder roll, even felt sin breakers dashing. Trying to conquer my soul, I've heard the voice of Jesus telling me still to fight on. He promised never to leave me alone. So fight on, soldier. Pray on, soldier. Work on, soldier. Because you ain't in this thing by yourself. No, never alone. He promised never to leave us alone. God bless you. God keep you. It is our prayer.
Hallelujah. Thank you.
Listen, if you ain't clapping,
that's my friend right there.
I ain't security today. But I might put you out the park today. He was able to wrap up everything. Didn't miss anything. If you didn't get it from him, you missed it. You missed it. There's no hope for you. I apologize in advance. We're going to bring you back remedial courses. Last but not least, I need Miss Shanice Turner-Sloss to the platform, everybody.
Greetings, my brothers and sisters. Greetings. It's so good to see everyone on this cold, cold afternoon. How do you follow up behind the pastor? Thank you, Dr. White. Thank you.
That's the doc.
I contend this cry of black power is at bottom a reaction to the reluctance of white power to make the kind of changes necessary to make justice the reality for the unheard. And what is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear the economic plight of the Negro poor, which has worsened over the last few years. These are the words of Dr. Martin Luther King in 1966. I want you to reflect on those words. I want you to digest on those words and understand that where we are today, 55 years, we're still experiencing those same challenges of the economic plight of the Negro. The summer riots that we experienced was pushbacks against the rampant police abuse, the lack of affordable housing, the swelling resistance against urban renewal projects, and economic inequality. Those are the issues that we are experiencing today that continue to grapple our neighborhoods. The means of us being here. The insurrection that we saw on Capitol Hill, we all know the outcome of that was much different. Much different. We live it. We see it. We see it in our neighborhoods. We see it in the lack of economic development. We see it in the jobs, the lack thereof. So my question to you today is, what sacrifice, what time are you willing to give up to make sure that the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King is lived forever? I must admit, and I have to tell you honestly, how many times do we continue to march down 3rd Street? How many times do we continue to shout out and to quote the famous words of Dr. Martin Luther King? How many times are we going to say, enough is enough? It's time that we put our action behind those words and we live out the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. It's time for us to show up and to stand up in solidarity, to move forward, to move all of us forward. We saw what our brothers and sisters in Georgia did, didn't we? And everyone wants to know, what's the blueprint? How do we replicate that? We start today. We start now. Dr. Martin Luther King said, the time is right and right now is the time. So I ask you to stand up, my beloved community. Do the work. Do the work. Let's continue to stand together. Let's continue to fight. Let's continue to hold those in office accountable. Policy. Policy. And I will be remiss without saying this. I am running for Dayton City Commission. I am your next Dayton City Commissioner. I need your help and your support because we're going to make those changes. We're going to live out the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. And I need your help to do it. It's time that we stand up and we fight for each and every one of us. We can do this together. Peace, thank you, and God bless.
Awesome job, awesome job. And now to close, a great friend of mine. This guy's been doing this for years. It was guys like him that inspired me to even be a part of anything. Without further ado, Mr. Jeffrey Mims, everybody.
Hey, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you very much. Those of you who know me know that I'm a former teacher and a coach, and it makes me so proud to see so many of my former students here and the parents of some of my former students. This rascal right here, I had him in school way back. Okay. Yeah, I got a little time on me. I'm gonna say, years ago when I graduated from high school, I volunteered to go to Vietnam to fight for the rights that the Constitution said we were supposed to have. I crawled around in Vietnam, member of the Special Forces, 604th Air Commando Squadron, doing everything I could to protect not just the people who were in my squad, but to protect the legacy, the belief, the hope that Constitution said that we were supposed to have. Here it is now, 54 years later. 54 years later, I have still not received all the benefits that I fought for. But it doesn't stop me from fighting still and fighting for you. One of the things that's been said, and I want to sort of elaborate on that because so much good stuff has been said, and I want to sort of take credit for everything that's been said as well, okay? But let me say this. Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King were on a collision course. They both had their styles, they both had the same goals, but they had a different style. It was not until they came together and realized that they could work together to pull people together. That's when they became the most dangerous. When they got white folks, black folks, red folks, green folks, I don't care what color, they got them together. They start pulling more and more people together. That's when they got dangerous. That's when they lost their lives. I say to you, this is very, very important for you to continue to do what you're doing. All of us together to make sure that we address those challenges that we have as far as our society is concerned. The problems that we have for people of color and for people who are poor are by design. If they keep us fighting each other, they can continue the game as it's been played. Stay together, work together, be together, love together, and make sure you do all you can to help your fellow man. Amen. Thank you very much. And I'm running for mayor, baby. Let you know that. Hey, Jeff, I gotta say it. Hey, bro, you're not 25 no more. Give me them pants. Let me borrow. But we would like to say there is free produce that you guys can receive. We want to give a shout out to Tommy Owens and Michael Wright. A special shout out once again to Mr. Jeffrey Mims, a great guy. No matter what I'm doing, no matter where I'm doing that, Mr. Scott Sliver is always there. No matter where it is, community, church, we want to shout you out for the donuts, for the juice, for the hot chocolate. We appreciate you because you are one of us, man. We appreciate you. A special shout out to obviously Marlon Shackelford, Brother Dominic and the Street Soldiers. A special shout out to all of you for being here. A special shout out to the DJ as well, DJ Oscar, for providing the sound today. So anybody that was involved, you can go ahead and come up and stand up for a picture. But we really do appreciate everybody from coming out, even our local friends, our Sporty's Bar and Grill who came out today. When they saw the flyer, they knew they had to be here. Because when they said we wasn't going to have a march, we said that we was. So we appreciated everybody for coming out. Brother Ethan, we appreciate you. And don't take that tie off because you might not get it back. But we appreciate everything and having you here today. Listen, and all of our sponsors, you know who you are. You guys have been great. Without you, we're nothing. WRXET, TV 40, we appreciate you guys. Always here, always ready, so we appreciate you guys as well. Now listen, we know it's time to go, it's cold, but you know how we do. No offense to anybody but black people, you know we gotta dance. DJ, play some music.
Hold on, we gonna let he cold, y'all.
All right, I ain't got much to say, but just thank everybody for participating in this troubled year. We had a good turnout, y'all. I think we had a good program, something that we could be proud of. Thanks for everybody that was involved. All our sponsors, right? And real quick, everybody like this, repeat after me. For the blood.
For the blood.
For the community.
For the community.
For the people.
For the people.
All power to the people.
All power to the people.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, sponsors. Commissioner Mims, Scott Sliver, Tommy Owens. We couldn't have done this without y'all. That's for real. Oh,
Mary Normbrock.
My nephew. Thank you. Street Soldiers, New Black Panther Party, Shanice, love to all of y'all. Everybody that's here is one love. Will Smith, Males of Color, y'all know we in the house. If you got sons, y'all better put them in Males of Color. Dayton Public Schools, Males of Color. You got sons in high school, Dayton Public School, Males of Color. Murphy Frazier, Street Soldier. Thanks for the donations, Shanice.